last week we started looking at voices, and I'd like to pick that up again today. And I would want us to really just ask ourselves what holds us in these patterns. I mean, you can pick any one of those and ask yourself, what is the voice behind that actually keeps it locked in, what keeps me anxious, or what keeps me feeling shame? There'll be a voice that says, well, you know that you never get it right. You know that, I remember a person saying to me, my father always said, you're such a disappointment. I thought, how do you live with a thing like that? Just to be told by your dad that you've always been a disappointment. But so when these feelings come in, and in the second session, I'd like us to look at some of the things that go with it, because the feeling that goes with that particular thing becomes an addictive feeling. We become addicted to a particular feeling. And the addiction is what keeps us going back there. It feels comfortable to always feel ashamed of yourself if that's what you've been used to doing, even though it's a negative feeling. It's almost like you sort of comfort yourself with a familiar feeling, even though it's destructive. Guilty. How many of us don't feel guilty half the time, or that we've never enough, or that somehow, our family was better than other families. And so we might have a pride, which we feel like we have to have it. We might feel. We might be addicted to idealization. One day things will be wonderful. Or, when a friend of mine today was saying he buys a ticket on the lotto every week. One day he's going to make, hit the jackpot, and he's going to be happy forever. So it's like we play games with ourselves. So I'd like us to look at to choose an aspect, and it doesn't have to be representative. It can just be something that interests you, and then look at the voice underneath that actually keeps pushing it. It's like pushing somebody on a swing. You push a tiny bit all the time, but you push it higher and higher and higher and higher, and eventually the person falls off the swing because they've gone right over. And that's what it does to us. It pushes us until something breaks, until something, crumbles in our self-esteem, until something, destroys a relationship that's precious, but in a moment of anger, we sort of smash away and then regret it for the rest of our lives, or something like that. So it's like patterns that we've picked up, and we're almost not aware of them, but when we start seeing the voice underneath it, and sometimes we can even identify the voice. I remember a school, counselor, vocational counselor. When I said I want to be an engineer, he said, "Oh, don't waste your parents' money and don't waste your time. Go and be a post office employee." That was the voice I still remember, and that drove me all the way through varsity. When I got my degree, I wanted to find Mr. Kruger and push it into his face. And I thought, maybe he did me a favor. Maybe the thought that he'd spoken like that really sort of hurt me. Anyway, so I want to go further into those voices, because on Saturday we're having our quiet day, and I think it's very important to the realization that the voices in our head are not only our own. That God also puts voices into our head. And evil also puts voices and thoughts into our head. So when somebody says, "You'll never be enough," where does that come from? It's probably evil. When Eve was looking at the fruit and the snake said, did God really say? He was bringing doubt into her own mind about what she had thought was pretty clear. When he was tempting Jesus in the wilderness and saying, why don't you just throw yourself off the building, and then, the angels will save you and everybody will think you're wonderful, and in one day your ministry will be achieved, solved. Why don't you turn all these stones into bread? Won't that be wonderful? So, it puts thoughts into our mind that either cripples us or pushes us into aggrandizement. One day I'm going to be famous and rich and wonderful, and everybody's going to think I'm amazing. which is equally stupid. So I want to look at that on Saturday specifically, because we don't realize just how much evil actually twists our thoughts and then gets us into behaviors that are dysfunctional and don't help us. But tonight I just want us to look at the beginning, particularly attitudes we carry. And we don't often think of them as attitudes. Other people see them in us as attitudes more than we do. But when you say somebody's got an attitude, they probably don't realize they have an attitude, but you know very well what you're talking about. And what's under the attitude. Why does a person have attitude? Why do they sort of speak that way? Or why do they have that tone of voice? Or why do they have that sort of demeanor? And what's driving it? Is that all right? Cool.